Florette here with InkOn3. Thank you so much for joining me, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more crafty fun. We are having a really fun collaboration right now with ThermOWeb. We're creating projects with their products and our products, and they blend beautifully together. I'm going to show you all kinds of fun tips, tricks, and techniques on how to use all these fun goodies and create two really awesome cards. So let's get started and get your ink on. So these are the two cards we're going to create together step by step. Surprisingly, really easy, but such fun techniques. And I think you'll really love the results you'll get doing these fun things. We're going to start with the koi card, and we're going to do some no line coloring with the fade out no line coloring detail ink. What's really amazing about this ink is it takes on the color that you lay on top. So you can use it for watercoloring, it works with Copic markers and pencils, so it's really truly magical and makes no line coloring super easy and available to anyone. So today we're going to do some watercoloring with it. I've taken the watercolor reinkers from the Atelier inks and put a little drop of each color I'm going to use onto a tile. You can also put it on a piece of plastic, and then I watered it down to get a couple different shades. And it's so easy. I can literally color two fish at one time, and we're going to create these beautiful rainbow fish. And so far you can see I'm just grabbing the ink and I am going right over all the lines. I don't have to worry about the details because the fade out ink is going to grab the color that I put on top and make those details come back for you. So you don't have to worry about, different sections or anything. I can literally just paint away super fast, and I'm going to get these amazing rainbow fish. As I said earlier, I'm using the Atelier Artist Grade Fusion inks along with the fade out. These two inks work beautifully together. The other thing about the Atelier ink is it glides on top of the paper, giving you a lot of working time. So if you have any watermarks or you want to blend things more, you have so much working time. And the same with the fade out, you get a lot of working time with that. So I can go back over these, I can add darker shades, or I could stop when it's really light. But the fish are going to be so beautiful and so easy to do. These inks are buttery smooth. The Atelier ink was designed to work in conjunction with each other. The colors blend beautifully and they stay true to color. They're going to stay bright and vibrant. They're not going to fade because they are fade resistant as well. And what's also cool is you can layer these colors. And as you layer or as you add water, it's not going to become chalky. It's going to stay really bright and really pretty even after it's dry. And that is what's so amazing. I can watercolor with this ink. I can lay colors on top of each other. I can blend. And look at these fish. They're really coming together. And I can just keep blending my colors and overlaying them. And you can see I'm getting this beautiful rainbow effect with very little effort. And I love painting in rainbows. It's just so much fun. And it's so relaxing, and the results are always just so dramatic. And on these koi fish, if you are new to no line coloring, these koi fish are a really great place to start because they're nice open spaces, but they have a lot of detail. And with the combination of the Atelier ink, it just really makes it a lot easier. And you're really going to be able to learn the technique and enjoy the process while you're doing it. So I just continue on. I'm using some of the marigold orange right now, and I'm going to blend it with some of the bee sting yellow. These names are so fun too. I just love them. Marilyn red, where you can get that beautiful red of her lips or the beautiful pink of her dress, and that's why I named it Marilyn red. And you can see I'm kind of mixing some of the green. Then I always rinse off my brush and dab it into some of the other colors and blend them together. The other thing I wanted to say is whenever you are watercoloring, a really big tip is to use a lot less water than you think you need. You just really want a barely damp brush. Once I was finished coloring them, I cut them out and I took a gel pen and just kind of added some little highlights here and there. And now I'm using the liquid pixie dust, and I put it in one of our water brush pens because it just makes it really easy to apply. So you can put it in a water brush pen, or you can use it with a paintbrush right out of the bottle as well. But this makes it just handy to have at any time. And you can see I can just paint it right on the fish right from the water brush pen. But what I really love is you can always see how much of the liquid pixie dust you have in your pen at all times, and you can refill it anytime you'd like. The other thing I wanted to mention, and you probably noticed, I'm going right over all those colors, but it's not messing up all the nice watercoloring I did because the liquid pixie dust glides across the surface once your project is dry. It's not going to muddy it all up. I also did take a little pen and colored in the eyes and the whiskers. And when I store my liquid pixie dust in a water brush pen, I always store it with the brush tip up so that it doesn't clog over time. Now I'm going to create some backgrounds. So I'm going to grab the Atelier Peacock Blue with a Trinity blending brush. And what I love about brushes is I can get a really, really light shade of the color or a really dark shade, depending on how I hold the brush. Right now I'm holding it a little further back and I'm going to use light pressure and get a light touch. Once that was all done, I added some Deco Foil Duo Transfer Gel over through a stencil, and I got this really cool background, and then I cut a piece of foil to size, but I do have to let that gel dry for a little bit so it's tacky before I put the actual. So I set it aside to dry, and once it was dry, fully dry, it gets a really tacky feel, and I can take my piece of foil and just smooth it over the top. And I'm going to just smooth it on, and the foil is going to start to stick. I'm going to then take that and sandwich it through some of my plates for my die cutting machine and run that through. Here I've run it through, and I'm going to peel it off, and that's where the magic happens. Look at that beautiful foil now stuck onto the gel that went through the stencil. Just gorgeous. I was so excited about how that looked. I couldn't resist to make another background because I had this idea. Once I peeled off that sheet, I knew I wanted to use the negative space as well. Here I'm just taking some Peacock Blue from the Atelier ink line with my blending brush and adding some of that to the edges. I'm going to do a little bit lighter and then some darker, and I'm going to grab a little of the Goddess Green and blend that on too, right over the colors, because I want to kind of get a blotchy look because I want to create like water. So water is not necessarily all a flat color, so I wanted to have it be a little bit patchy. Of course, you can blend it all really smooth if you want to. You can do all different techniques, but you can see I'm getting this beautiful blended background using the greens and the peacock blue. I think it looks really pretty. And then I want to add a little bit darker of the peacock blue around the edges, so I grab a little straight from the ink pad without dabbing it off in the cap. And you can see I'm getting a much darker tone doing it that way. Just love this color that I'm getting when I mix the Goddess Green with the peacock blue. It's almost a really pretty turquoise. I'm going to then clean off my mat. I'm going to just spritz it with a little water, take my ink off cloth and clean it for my next step. Now the Atelier ink is water reactive, so we can do all these fun techniques with it too. So I'm splattering it, and then I'm going to get these really cool light splatters that resemble bubbles. So it's really becoming a very nice water look. And then I want to add a little more lightness and another layer of color so I can even blend right over that, and then add some more, and I can just keep going and going and going and layer upon layer, and that's what's so fun. And then I can even take some liquid pixie dust and add some sparkly shimmers all over it, and then blot that off, and wait till you see what this is looking like. Look at that. Oh my gosh, I wish you could see it in real life, because in real life it's even better. It's so sparkly and so pretty. And I was having so much fun with the deco foil, as you can see here, and I decided I'm going to use that negative space from the Pondy stencil that we used and glue that right onto my background. So I used a little of the mixed media glue for this because it'll hold this plastic sheet really well to the paper. It's really great glue and it dries really fast. And I'm just going to lay that on top of my card and then trim off the edges. But look at that. Isn't that so cool? So now I've got this glistening shimmer from the liquid pixie dust, but also that shine from the negative piece of the foil. And then here I go and just trimming around the edges. Super easy to do. And now I have two backgrounds to make two really fun cards. So I'm going to save the other piece for a later date, and this is the one we're going to use today. But look at it, looks like a pond with all these water lily pads, and the water's just shimmering underneath. I have all my pieces, I have all my fish, and I'm trying to decide what I'm going to use. So I decide just to use one fish on this card, and I can save the other fish for a later date. So I've got all these fun pieces that I'm going to be able to play with later. I also wanted to mention the thinking of you sentiment comes from the Water Lily stamp set, and I just stamped that out with the blackout detail ink. And I'm looking at it and I decide, you know what, I'm going to use the water ripples on the sentiment strip underneath my fish because I think that'll give like a really fun dimension. So I'm going to grab some ink, the peacock blue again. I'm going to use the ink pad this time, and I'm just going to use a stamping block, stamp it off a couple times to get a lighter tone of that color, and then I can stamp it on here 2 times, and I'm going to have this nice water ripple for the background behind my fish. So I'm getting all these different layers and all this dimension that really creates a really fun card with so much interest. So you can see by this video, I was really playing and having a great time and just trying to decide how I was going to put it all together. I really didn't have a plan to start with. I just started out by playing, and sometimes playing is one of the best ways to find new techniques or new things that you haven't done before. So then I lay out a piece of vellum. I had cut a strip. I'm going to put that behind my sentiment strip and glue that all together using some of the adhesives that we used earlier, and I'm going to use some foam squares as well. So first I'm going to start with my vellum, and I'm going to grab the Ultra Bond glue, and it's it's a great adhesive because it dries clear and you can really get nice results with just about anything that you're doing. And I found it to work really good with the vellum as well. So I just wasn't worried about what it was going to look like because I knew my sentiment was going to go on the top of that. So I put my glue in the center there. As I said earlier, you get a lot of working time with the Atelier ink. And as I was looking at it, I thought, oh my gosh, wouldn't it be fun to take some water from my water brush pen and just blend out those ripples so it really has a ripply water effect. And then I pulled some of the blue down into the sentiment strip so that it's really going to look like this fish has jumped out of the water, and it's just going to add so much dimension and interest. So I'm going to use some of the ThermOWeb foam squares, not dots, foam squares. These are really great because they come in different sizes, so you can use them for all different shapes. As you can see there, I could use some of the small ones, some of the large ones, and it just made it really easy to pop it right on my card. So now I'm going to actually put it all together. I'm going to use the Ultra Bond again on my card front and just kind of squiggle some glue around. And what I really like about using this adhesive as opposed to using a tape runner is I have a little wiggle room. If I don't line it up just right, I can reposition it or move it around for a little while, and it gives me a little bit of time. I am just loving how that koi turned out. I can't stop looking at that no line colored koi. It's just so pretty. But I decide I want to have some water like embellishments on there, so I grabbed some Trinity stamps embellishments. I love these embellishments because of that little container they have, and she has such a variety, and these little water bubbles I thought were perfect. So I again grabbed the Ultra Bond because it's so versatile and will glue so many different things, and I glued on those embellishments, and here we have the finished card. But you can see there is just so much dimension here because of the Atelier inks, and you combine the deco foil and the no line coloring. You've just got so many beautiful techniques and so much fun to do. Let's get started on our second card. I use the blackout detail ink. It's waterproof and really great because it dries almost instantly to the touch, so you're not going to smudge your stamps images. It's going to help a lot. And I'm going to clean off my stamps with an ink off cloth. I'm just going to grab a little of the ink off, and then I'm going to grab the ink off cleaner. Oh my gosh, this has made stamp cleaning so much fun. I just dab it on just like you do an ink pad and then wipe it off, and you are good to go. You've got clean stamps. I'm always now looking for stamps to clean. It's so much fun. So we're going to do some really quick wet on wet watercoloring on these. So to start, I just took some clean clear water and I added a little water to my petal, and blended it across, but just a little bit. And so you just want that petal to glisten. I used, again, the Atelier Peacock Blue in the watercolor reinker and put it on a tile. You could also use the pad, and if you like, to swipe it on the tile and use the ink that way. But the idea is to have the wet on wet. You have the clean, clear water on your petal. You're going to dip into your paint and then let it move across the petal. And then you can guide it across by cleaning off your brush and pulling the color further down the petal. And you'll notice I always dip onto my ink off cloth, and the reason is I'm always making sure my brush does not have too much water, because that's when a lot of people run into trouble or they struggle with watercoloring, is because they'll usually use too much water. So a little water goes a long way. So you always want to remember that when you're watercoloring. And just make sure your brush is barely damp. So I just took a little yellow and put it in the center, and then we were good to go. Did a little playing again with the Deco Foil Transfer Gel. I just took a little bit with a spatula and pulled it across the page. I let it dry, grabbed a piece of the foil and ran it through my machine, and look at that. Now I've got this really cool artsy background, but I wanted it to be more color on color or tone on tone. So I thought I would grab some of the My Jam Purple and blend it across the top. So you can go right over the foil with the ink. And I started out with light, but then I decided I wanted it darker, so I, just made it a little bit darker. The other thing I'm showing you here is I went ahead and colored all my little pieces, but if you ever go outside the lines, you can always take a gel pen and correct those little edges, and it'll make them just perfect. So we're all done just about, but we need that little bit of sparkle, so I'm again using liquid pixie dust, this time straight out of the bottle. Put a little drop on a block and use a paintbrush. The only thing you want to always remember when using liquid pixie dust is just make sure you shake it up really good right before you use it. And look at that. Oh my gosh, gorgeous, just like the card says. I really, really like the way this card also turned out. I thought it was so, so pretty. I think the deco foil, and you mix it with blending ink over it, it just is such a good technique. I had so much fun playing with all of these products and doing all these fun different techniques, and I really love how both of these cards turned out. No line coloring is fun, and I also love doing regular watercoloring with black lines. Both ways look amazing. This has been such a fun hop, and I just loved combining the ThermOWeb products with the InkOn3 products. You can have so much fun playing with all these techniques. Well, I hope you enjoyed creating these two really cool cards with me today, and I hope you'll give it a try. So thanks for joining me. Hit the subscribe button for more crafty fun, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.